hour session, 40 minutes for the panel discussion, and then Q&A. I think that moots out till we've got 50 minutes to kind of kick stuff around before we want to transition into the next session. And it's my pleasure to introduce our panelists. Andrew Peterson, Jonathon Eaton, Noah, where are you? Noah Hayes.
Hello.
And is Matt Smith?
No, he's actually teaching in high school right now. So
he's busy doing work. We
yes.
Got it. All right. So without further ado, I will turn it over to the panelists who will put their feet back down on the floor and begin the discussion.
So just to kind of give you an overview of kind of how the structure should be going today, I believe we're going to have Noah kind of first talk about kind of the student and the student side, kind of the RSO. Then we're going to have Jonathon talk about kind of the collegiate. I call it varsity. He's still a little hesitant on that and kind of that angle. And then I'm going to start talking about the curriculum side of it. So Noah, go ahead.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Noah Hayes. I'm the president of the Esports program here at Ferris. And we've been working on this program for since my freshman year, which was 3 years ago. So it's been very interesting because we've came from just a club based around one single game. And Jono and I have built this club into a large foundation for all esports across the nation. And we've had some teams place in top 16 in the nation. We've had some teams come close to that, but didn't quite get there. So it's been a growing process. And from a student point of view, the first thing I looked for when I came into Ferris was an esports program. And when I found the esports program that was where it was, which was a dedicated club around one single game, which was called League of Legends at the time, I wanted to go into that and look to grow it a lot more than it is all around the country. For example, so many other colleges, Michigan State, that's just in Michigan alone, are having these huge esports programs and dedicating a lot of money to arenas and varsity programs. And I want to be one of those colleges because that's something I'm interested in as well. So that's what my student perspective was I was wanting to get this program going as much as possible. I wanted to start it in my high school, but I couldn't get it to because I started too late as a senior. So once I came to Ferris, first thing I looked for, and I found it, and Jono and I have worked so hard to get it where it is today. So
we took it from 20 students when it was originally just a League of Legends club, and right now we're just shy of 350 students. So, and it's been growing every semester. People graduating here and there, which is nice, but a lot of them are the incoming freshmen too. We're getting new faces every time. One of the things that we like to reach to is the students who aren't necessarily out doing other things on campus. If we have an esports game scheduled the same time as a football game, we're not taking any of the audience away from the football game because it's typically not the same students. So we like to reach out to the students who normally, before the esports, were kind of isolated in their rooms playing their favorite games, not knowing who else on campus was playing those games. I actually met my current roommate through the Overwatch team when I was playing there. We just posted on the Fair State subreddit, and a bunch of guys were like, oh, hey, I played before. Let's all get together. And one kid, they were in the dorms and in the games, it'll tell you like who's playing this game nearby you. And a couple of the players found each other out that way, and then we got a team together. That team played together for 3 years. We were lucky to find everyone either freshmen or sophomores. So the team played together from 3 years. They went from just above average in the last semester in the fall. They placed 15th in the nation. Out of all schools, there's no D1, D2. It's all the schools total. So that was pretty cool for them. We've actually graduated almost off the entire team, and so now the rest of the program is kind of back to rebuilding. But we're currently a registered student organization and a club sport. We're the only organization that does both. But we just take money from club sports because we didn't want to kind of double dip. But the student organization side is the for fun, casual gamers. People just want to come and play, have fun, meet new people, play their games. And the club sports side, which is eventually what's going to be our varsity side, which is the fully competitive teams, practice 2 to 3 times a week for a couple hours a day, and then compete against other universities on the weekends. Noah, do you want to talk about what it's like to play on one of those teams?
Yeah, sure. So I play on, it's pretty stressful because I play on 3 teams at the same time. I play on League of Legends, Rainbow Six Siege, and Counter-Strike, all 3 separate games of very different types. And I also coach the Counter-Strike game as well. So I'm pretty busy when it comes to that. But we try to practice twice a week, which means I have conflicting practices with separate games. League of Legends practices once a week for scrims and stuff. So I have to schedule that around. So my week's usually pretty busy when it comes to that. But typically the player will be dedicated to one team, and that one team will usually scrim 1 to 3 times a week, roughly. There's practices in there that don't equal scrimmages as well. And then there's always a game at the end of the week towards the weekend, Friday-ish. Then once you get to a certain number within win-loss ratio, like typical sports, you get into playoffs. And then once you get to playoffs, you have a chance of going into nationals, which has a chance of winning the finals, which then can lead to scholarships and stuff like that.
Definitely. The esports is an industry where the winners get money. It's always been that way. And it doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon. The actual biggest event watched last year was the Dota International Finals. It actually beat out the Super Bowl. And I believe the winning team, the total prize pool for the tournament was $21 million. And that was split between the top couple teams. So there's a lot of money in this. The most expensive player, his contract was just sold for $5 million a year in League of Legends, actually. So there's a lot of money here, and a lot of people are used to winning money. I know we've had teams before compete in tournaments in the past with money prize pools, and that's something we're still working out to, and if we actually get to the point where we're winning those, what we're looking at doing for that. But you look all across the collegiate scene, and a lot of people do have these tournaments with prize pools at the end. The tournaments that we run currently don't have any prize pools. We're just running trophies because there's a lot more paperwork involved as soon as you're paying money. I know some schools don't allow their students to get money either. Aquinas just straight up says, no, if you win any money, it goes right back into the club, because they've had issues with students losing financial aid because, they got $100 winnings from a tournament and now the student can't go to school anymore. So that's been fun stuff. We've been working with the accounting through that. They've been really helpful with that. It's been a really new territory. Nobody else is really doing this. None of the other clubs are competing for prize pools because of all this red tape, but because that's the way the industry's been set up, that's the way we've been navigating through it.
I think that's kind of one of the really interesting discussion points too, because typically when you hear like college athlete, like the number one rule with the NCAA is that you cannot make money. Like that's what distinguishes you from a professional. And so if you accept, $100 as a prize, you're now a professional football player, and all of a sudden you can't play college football. Like it's all like super cut and dry, and everybody's super paranoid about it. And with esports, that has never existed. Like every single esports player that I know streams. When you stream, you make ad revenue. It might only be a couple bucks, and some of us have like 2 followers. But it's enough where it would kick you out of the NCAA. But for esports, they're like, yeah, whatever. There's been cases of where students will turn down scholarships because they make more money streaming. And so you're like, that's weird. That's different. We don't know how to handle that. And so right now, NCAA is like, we're not touching that with a 10-foot pole. But as they see numbers and they see people kind of following esports and the attention that it's getting, it wouldn't surprise me if that becomes a bigger conversation soon.
Definitely. It's so new and there's so little overhead structure. There's like Andrew said, he calls us varsity. I'm not quite there yet because there's a few things. Scholarships is the number one thing. When we get scholarships, we can start to kind of broadcast that from my perspective. But again, it's just our personal opinion because there's no governing body that says, yes, you are varsity, here's the reasons why. It's just kind of, there's some varsity leagues, but those were just made by people going, okay, we're now an officially varsity league. They can just call themselves that and no one's there to stop them. I know I've talked to the GLIAC before. They're interested in getting a league going. I've looked at some of the national leagues, but most of the national leagues have exclusivity clauses where they're like, if you compete in our league, you can't compete in other leagues. When we have, each game has a league that's specifically better for it. So with League of Legends, it's CLOL, which is Competitive League of Legends. There's Collegiate Rocket League and Collegiate R6, which are separate organizations. Overwatch is through an organization called TESPA, which actually works with Blizzard, the creator of the company, of the game. And so navigating through each of these individual games is a tough process. And we're looking for ways to kind of streamline that into one big governing body. But there's a few different governing bodies out there that are competing, and none of them really seem to, they cost a couple $1,000s a year, and none of them really seem to provide enough value to justify that cost currently.
Yeah, it's a unique landscape right now. When you say, it's almost the opposite problem of, rather than having like one organizational body, there's like 20. And there's new ones that pop up and old ones that die weekly. It's a interesting, a bit of chaos. So I know that's kind of our student side. I don't know, Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, Noah. Did you have to be somewhere at 1?
I do. I have to go to a class.
Okay. Okay, I'm not going to be sarcastic because it's recording and I can't tell you to skip that. So,
Right.
That's the number one thing we hammer home to our students. Go to your classes first, get your homework done. A lot of students are like, oh, well, I had something to do, but I've practiced tonight. I'm like, first of all, if you had a week to do that, one of the students, I know you had a week to do that, but if you need to do it now. We'd much rather have you graduate on time than make every practice.
The saying always goes with traditional sports as student athlete, and that's the order you have to live by when it comes to college. You're here to get a degree, not necessarily play for a team. So make sure you get your degree first, and as you're playing on a team second, that's fine.
yep. And
So look, you guys, can I ask a quick question? And
Sure.
this is extremely naive. I am not a gamer, other than Super Mario Brothers on the NES 25 years ago, whatever. How many different, like, I'm not saying platforms. Like my nephew's all into this. I'm not saying PlayStation, all that. But how many different competitive games are in the realm of this? Like, is it hundreds or thousands or
so
10?
The ones that we play, I think we're at 7.
I think it's 7 or 8 for the actual games that we support, but we have processes in place and we're building another 5 or so depending on student. So there's a couple of students who are like, I want to play this one game. They're really into it. But if they can't find enough people to get a team together, then we can't, we're trying the best to get those students there. But, if there's not enough to even field a team, then we can't just say, hey, we're going to pay an entry fee for this league if we don't even have enough players. But currently we have 7 games, but most of those games have A, B, and C teams. So there's official tryout processes where, we'll have a big combine day where everyone come out, try out, and then we've got enough roster slots on our A team. Once we have the A team figured out, then we'll go through and figure out the B team, just like you would with any other sport.
Noah kind of talked about it early on, but one of the things that I'm really proud of is how we restructured the esports club at Ferris. Because initially we had a League of Legends club, and that started off and there was like 20, 30, 40 people. And then all of a sudden Fortnite came out. And then we went from 40 to like 7 overnight. And we're like, well, crap. If we're going to have to fill out these club paperwork every time a new game comes out, it's just not going to work, because there's like a 6-month probationary period. And then 9 months later, you can be like an official club. And I'm like, some games have a lifespan of 1 year. And so I'm like, okay, we're gonna make esports, and then now we're gonna have all sorts of different things underneath it. And so it makes us real nimble in the sense of, if a new game comes out, we go, do you want to be the captain? Okay, you are now the captain. Now you find a team. Here's our process. Here's our behavior expectations. Here's our our code of conduct. And go.
There was a game that came out last summer that we had a team ready and playing in leagues for the fall. And so being adjustable is one of our greatest strengths. In the future, the end goal, I see athletics and esports being almost like mirrored silos, where you have your athletic director, you have your esports director, you'll have your individual coaches and all your support staffs and all your arena. But I'm talking like 5-10 years down the road before that kind of structure's in place at most universities. The student base, the users out there, as far as students go, it's there. And if you look at the market for who's invested in esports, now it's not necessarily just young people. I know even people like I play video games with my parents every week. We're on a Minecraft server together, and they're a bit older for like most people who play games. But as my generation continues to get older, I know we're not just going to be like, okay, I'm done playing video games. All my friends play. That's how we get together. That's the activities we do together, especially when we've been kind of stuck inside. So this is going to continue to grow. And in the future, I do see it mirroring very closely traditional athletics.
So another question for you guys, and I might be jumping the gun, Andrew, you might hit this with curriculum and stuff like that, but, just not a big gamer myself either, play with some friends, different sports games, that kind of thing. But you see new consoles coming out every year, new games coming out, new adaptations. How do you guys stay on top of all that with all these things that are coming out, all the changes that are made? What does that look like for you guys?
For the most part, all of our competitive leagues are done through PC, just because it's consistent. And if you look at the professional level for all games, outside of a few outliers, it's all PC players. So if you're talking about especially like the Call of Duties and the shooters like that, it's easier and you're better if you're on mouse and keyboard. It's just your body's more used to aiming like that. Then with just your thumb, you have your whole arm to use it. And so all the professional scenes are built that way. So we kind of follow that, and it makes it a little easy. You know, when the PlayStation 5 comes out, it's not like we have to rechange everything we're doing. It's all through PC. But some of the leagues, like, you know, like the Madden and the 2K, those are specifically locked to consoles and they can't play back and forth. And we've been doing individual leagues for both. I know when we run Madden tournaments, we have to run a Madden Xbox tournament and a PlayStation tournament, just to get enough people to, but, you know, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to play, but, you know, they're not compatible. But games like Rocket League, you can play on the consoles, and in Fortnite as well, you can play on consoles and PC together. And I think that's the way that the industry is going. A lot of the newer games allow you to cross-play. You can play with your friends no matter what they're playing on. Before, it was a big selling point, like, oh, all of your friends have Xbox, buy an Xbox. Now, people aren't switching between Xbox and PlayStation nearly as much. So they're kind of like, okay, now we can open it up and get them to play with each other. More people are willing to play your game if you can play with other people. I know my friends, I have one friend on PlayStation, a few on Xbox, and the most are on PC now, but we won't play a game that you can't play with everyone on. You know, we're not just gonna be like, oh, well, you know, for the next 2 months while we really play this game a ton, you guys are just gonna kind of be left on the sideline. So I think the game developers are really understanding that and seeing that, and noticing, hey, you know, if we make it so everyone can play together, a lot more people are gonna buy it.
I think a little bit of it. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say that console developers actually thought about that too, is the transition, because say Rainbow Six Siege, there is a competitive scene on Xbox and stuff like that, but it's not as big. It's very small. But if you go to PC, it's very large and it's got a lot of money in it, and a lot of prize pools and stuff like that. But the actual developers of the consoles thought about it in the sense that they added the compatibility with keyboards and mouse to a console. And with this compatibility, makes it easier for console players to be transitioning to a PC if they wanted to play it at a higher level and for competitive value.
Most of the gaming industry sees consoles as the casual users, like, you know, you just play on your couch, you play to have fun, and the players who are playing seriously, competing for money have to play on PC.
And so I just want to throw in there too a little bit. Some of the games that we have competitive teams for, I've never played. I don't require myself to be up to date on any of these. This is where I go, I know the student captain. I trust the student captain. I interact with the student captain. And when the student captain goes, you know, I got this one student who's doing this, or here's an issue that came up, that's my role here. If you ask me what new games are coming out, I don't want to say I don't care. I'm interested in games that I like, but I don't force myself to try and keep up with all of them because I couldn't.
That's one of my personal goals, actually, is to be above average in every game that we offer. So
that's what not me.
My free time in the past year, actually grinding out every game. But that's mostly just so I know what I'm talking about when I come to the table with these games. We do have a coach for our League of Legends team. He used to coach semi-pro over in Europe, spent a couple months in Europe coaching semi-pro teams. And he actually went to Wayne State or Oakland University, and he's actually transferring to Ferris to come coach for us. So really excited to have him there. He's been a great help. And I see a lot of people like that. We're going to continue to pull their expertise in from other areas and kind of bring them in that way.
Quick question on costs, because I don't think that has been covered at all. But in comparison to other NCAA sports, where I'm just thinking hockey, you know, equipment, things of that nature. And I know that I see some fancy chairs in this room. So I know there's probably some costs with fancy chairs. I've had students in fancy chairs in different meetings. But can you talk a little bit about cost, especially because I'm imagining that your RSO is probably needing to raise that money. And then another, like a second question aside from that is, esports being a group activity versus, you know, maybe I want to play, and I'm not a gamer, but playing, and I want that 21 million, but I don't want to be on a team. Like I want to, is that a playing as a single player kind of thing, or is esports strictly group team activity?
There are some games which you can play single player, but it's very rare. I know like Fortnite has their big thing was the best player in the world. So they ran a tournament of all just one person. It was actually a 16-year-old who won $3 million. He was a sophomore in high school. But the way I view esports is it's like, you know, playing video games is one thing. It's like playing basketball out in the street. You just go, okay, no, I'm going to go shoot some hoops by myself, or we're going to play some pickup basketball in the yard. Okay, that's cool. But that's not, you know, you're not on a basketball team if you do that. But if you're being on a team means you're playing on a competitive team with other teammates against other teams in an organized setting. So it's like, if you set up a tournament at the Y, where teams every week, there's scheduled times and the Y organizes all of it. Okay, now you're on a basketball team, right? That's the very base level of team all the way up to NBA. That's where esports start for me, is the organized part of it. We're above that. We're, with the club sports, we're with the varsity sports, where our players are coming in, they're signing contracts to be on the teams, code of conduct, all that kind of stuff. But it's on a team, you're playing with your teammates. If you bring people in, that's great if they make the A team. But if 5 people who've never played together make the A team, by the end of the year, they're really good friends. And as far as cost goes, our operating budget currently is $0 for like actual budget item stuff. But we've been getting grants, we've been getting funded through EIO. Steve's been a great help with that. Our biggest cost so far, and the biggest cost in esports in general, is the broadcasting studio. It costs a lot of money to get the equipment to actually do the live streaming. I think we got roughly an $8,000 grant that got our studio set up and running. For the individual user though, if somebody comes to me and goes, I want to play on the Overwatch team, but I don't have any equipment, in order to get them something to play, it's going to cost a decent amount of money. But on the same side of that, most people don't come to us and say, I want to play this game competitively on a team if they don't already have the equipment to play it and aren't playing in their free time. At that point, we've had some new players play, but they're typically on the B or C teams, and they're just like, I like this game. I just got into it. Can you teach me some more? But the players who come to us and go, I want to practice 3 times a week, they're also playing it a lot of times outside those practices as well.
So this is where we have to tell Noah to get to class.
Okay. I'll get going. Thank you guys for having me on here. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Andrew, if you wanted to talk more about other costs or anything you've run into as well, feel free.
So that's one of the conversations. It's actually, you can take either extreme. So you could be an esports team and just rely on people's own equipment. Like I guess the startup cost for an esports team, where people are already playing these games, is almost nothing, because it's using equipment that the individuals, the students or the players already have, and it's really just kind of collecting them together and adding that structure around it. We can take that and go all the way to the other extreme of, we have this wonderful new building, the Center for Virtual Learning, or Virtual Learning Center, VLC, Virtual Learning Center, that is going to feature a esports arena. So the cost is somewhere between nothing and 30 million. So
yeah, you can really get cost efficiency out of how much you put into it too. If there's another school in Michigan, Northwood, I hadn't heard too much about them before this year. They weren't really popping up on anybody's radar. They give out 9 full rides for their Overwatch team, and now they have the #2 team in the nation. The only team that beats them is they're the best team every year. They're coached by ex-pro players. They'll have pro players retire from playing professionally and then get a full ride to college to go play for that team. So, a small school in Michigan to go from nobody in the esports world to #2 on the power rankings, in a semester is pretty insane, but also they poured a lot of money into it.
And that just kind of gives you an idea of the fluctuation in this, because there's no reason why we couldn't have literally a professional player enrolled at Ferris and playing on our team.
I've seen a lot of professional players from the leagues that I follow. They'll actually, because with the traditional sports, you go to high school, you go to college, then you play in the professional leagues. Well, you're considered old in esports by 25, 26, 27. You're, the boomer of the group. You're aging out of playing on those teams. So you'll literally see people like, why is this player still playing in the league? He's 26. He's too old. He can't keep up with the 18-year-old kids. A lot of the big players are 16 to 18 to 19. And so these players, when they start that young, they're starting in high school, a lot of them. Then they go play professionally, and then when they age out, when they're a little bit rusty, their hand-eye coordination is not as good anymore. They go, okay, now what am I going to do? They thought forever, like, oh, I'm just going to keep playing forever, and then they kind of come to the realization, like, oh, I can't do this when I'm 30. What's my next step? And a lot of those students go to college at that point after the end of the careers. But it's nice for those colleges because they're, imagine if Tom Brady, when he retires from the NFL, could come back and play for Ferris. Would it be cost effective to get him here? Yes, it would, because the marketing in that alone, the headlines in that scene alone. A lot of these pro players, I recognize a lot of colleges I've never heard of before, because I know, this play, Big Goose used to play for my favorite team, but now he goes to that university.
I I wanted to make a comment too, because I think you alluded to it, Jonah, but Andrew just got a foundation grant. Was that already spent for the TV studio or the broadcasting studio, or is that to be?
So we've actually gotten 2 different merit grants. The first one we got, I believe, 2 years ago, and that was for the broadcasting studio. So before we received that one, we cobbled together most of that equipment just through friend of friends that do this type of streaming for fun. And then we modeled the grant after the equipment that they would use. And it was like a $7,500 grant to build our current existing studio. And then we just received a second merit grant for a mobile esports arena. And that's for this year, which, as you can imagine, a mobile esports arena where we would go into high schools and actually host tournaments doesn't work real well when schools don't want people there.
So our vision for that is we're going to have this mobile arena. We're going to be able to take it into high schools, and it's going to be kind of a showpiece for Ferris, saying, if you want to come to do esports, Ferris is the place to do it, and also give them opportunity to play against their players and do tournaments within their school as well. So just kind of get students used to. A lot of people, when you talk to them, you're like, oh, we're playing video games. People go, oh, well, that's just something my kid does in his room for fun. It's like, that's one way, but it's also just saying like, oh yeah, basketball, people just like play that at the park. Like, yeah, that's one way to do it, but also playing organized on a team. This is a legitimate thing that the university takes seriously. The university funds us, they support us very well. And it's legitimizing it for high schools is a really big piece of what we want to do with that.
Well, and just people's perception of it. So, even a year ago, you bring up esports and it's like, ha, 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 it's eating Slim Jims and Mountain Dews in your mom's basement. And you're like, no. Currently in Shanghai, they're building a $1 billion esports arena. The Olympic Committee is aware of and putting esports on the agenda. Like these are major institutions and funding that is going into this because they see the demographics of who's playing and who's watching esports. And it's just growing every year.
The ad revenue from it is actually insane too, because I know I have ad blockers installed on everything I do, and I don't watch any cable news or any cable. I don't even have cable at my house, and neither do any of my roommates. So I don't see ads in my normal life at all, except for when they're paid promotions for that league. If the league goes, it's our, ad break sponsored by T-Mobile. That's the only time I actually see an ad, and I know that what they're charging for ad space is a lot more than what a typical place would charge for ad space, because the target demographic is savvy enough to not normally see ads. So in order to get your brand in front of those people who are a little bit more reserved from other things, it costs a little bit.
So I don't know if we want to kind of pause for some questions here before I go into the curriculum side of it, because I can talk about that almost forever, and it seems to be a different segment of this, because it's a lot of it's student, it's player, it's community, and then it's also curriculum and research. And while there's a little bit of kind of transition between them, it does kind of lead to different discussions and different topics.
One of the favorite things, right before the question, sorry, one of the favorite things my students have told me, I had a student come to me and, he was like, I just sat in my room before. I didn't really interact with a ton of people. Thanks for like having me meet everyone. And by being able to watch the Ferris teams on the Ferris stream and wear my jersey, he's like, I actually feel proud to be a Bulldog instead of just like being here doing the thing that I was like told to do. So that for me kind of struck a chord, and I was really excited to hear that from the players, that they're like, I feel way more connected to the university because I'm actively, I'm representing them, I'm participating in this, and I'm meeting other people as well.
Actually, John,
given the time, Andrew, I think we need to talk about the curriculum piece. We've got about 20 minutes.
Okay, I was going to say one thing that I wouldn't mind if we could beforehand. John, did you want to show the intro just to kind of give people an idea of this is what we stream? And so Ferris Esports, we have a location on Twitch that's Ferris or twitch.tv/Ferris Esports. And so all of our games, we actually do like the sports communication, we do the shoutcasting for the games while we're playing them, and we broadcast them out to the internet. And so we have kind of prided ourselves on our our broadcast quality, because a lot of times you see the broadcasts that are coming from other universities will just be a single point of view from a player. And so it'll just be like, imagine like if their quarterback was broadcasting their stream, and it would just be their voice, their point of view, and their caring about the game. Whereas we're providing that kind of color commentary. And
You want to set me as co-host?
oh yeah, I'm host. There you go.
All right. So this is just a quick little, so this right here is our intro screen before the broadcast itself actually starts. We go into like a 30-second little intro animation, and then we cut to our announcers in front of a green screen. And that's the way, this is the way we start every broadcast. Each of these intros is actually customized for each game. As you can see here, this is our Overwatch block. We come into our casters here.
Welcome back,
They'll kind of
Bulldogs.
introduce themselves, talk about the upcoming game like you would with the traditional game. We've got a couple lower thirds come in with their names and all the branding stuff,
now.
which is very nice. And then when we head into the game, let's see if I can get back to it. So we'll transition into the game itself. And now you can see all the stats are shown above, which is very nice. And then you get to see from a third-person camera's perspective. So then as it's going, we have our lower thirds at the top of the two different schools playing, and then you get to see kind of a view of the game as it's going on with the announcers talking about it, just like you would with any traditional sports game.
So like I said, I just wanted to kind of show that case that real quick, because it kind of gives you an idea of like what we're doing and why there's some kind of production value there, which really kind of ties into the curriculum conversation, because the professional skill set that is being broadcast by our students really comes from a series of different curriculum across campus. And so what's kind of working its way through the curriculum process right now is a 4-year degree in professional esports productions, which it almost has kind of the same challenge as our digital animation game design program, in that we don't want students that just want to play games. We don't want a student to be like, oh, I like games, I can do this. There's a professional skill set here that they have to be able to highlight, that they have to be able to learn, produce, and do. And so the curriculum kind of was designed with a little bit of digital animation game design, some TV digital media production, event management, network security, sports communication. All of these different pieces and parts are kind of assembled into one single degree. So it's a very kind of cross-curricular discipline that we've been building for about the last 2 years, and kind of working out the paperwork and the red tape, and kind of getting the correct buy-in from the correct individuals, so that our students are able to produce this quality of material, and they'll have that job for them in the esports arena when they're done with this. We've got really kind of everything all mapped out. Sandy, is there any problem with me kind of showcasing some of this stuff, or?
The fact that you've already gone through the PCAF process and that design of the program is all the way up through the president's cabinet. Yeah, we're still working on the official approval for the curriculum piece, but showing them what you're chewing on, I think is worthwhile. Yeah.
Okay, and that's what I'm. Sandy has been phenomenal with kind of guiding me through this, and she'll slap my wrist when it's appropriate and go, "Don't do that." And likewise will kind of guide me through the rest of it. So it's been a unique process. I'm gonna go ahead and share kind of one of just the general overviews. So this is kind of the structure that we're currently looking at. And I believe I've got everything up to date in this one. Again, don't take any of this as set in stone yet, but you can kind of see just from the overview of the courses listed here, the kind of the cross-disciplinary nature here. We've got a solid core curriculum that focuses on esports. And then we kind of dip into the digital animation game design, the TPMP, obviously kind of the gen eds and the communication, the English, those are all still highlighted and required. And we've also allowed for multiple tracks here so that the students will be able to kind of specialize in a segment of esports. So we can recognize that not everyone who's going into a esports, professional esports productions is going to want to have the same job when they're done with this. There are some that will be focused on the event management side. So they're going to work in a 100,000 plus arena seating. They're going to be working on a lot of the logistics. There's also going to be that person that's more into like player psychology and health and wellness. There's going to be the shoutcasters. These are very specific disciplines that rely on different skills. And we want to be able to be flexible enough to recognize these different areas and allow students to kind of grow and succeed in those areas. So we've kind of got this broken down into, your typical cohort model. Ideally, this is a fully online program where we've got it set up to allow students to come in from everywhere. That's kind of one of the other kind of interesting side notes from esports in general. We can have students who have never been in Big Rapids not only get a 4-year degree from Ferris, but also compete on a team. And this is really kind of the angle that EIO has come in with, because we do kind of represent off campus and the online. This is kind of really the first sport that has been able to be advertised and promoted to students who are off campus. You couldn't have a hockey player who doesn't go to Big Rapids, who isn't on main campus. That's kind of a weird conversation to even think about. And yet when we're talking about it with esports, it makes total sense. Like you're not tied to one physical location, so why would you?
One of the players from one of our teams is actually lives in California. He originally was an on-campus student, but had to move back home, and has been playing on our team for a year now from California.
I remember one of our interesting kind of first conversations when the first round of jerseys that we got was the first time that some of these players had ever met each other face to face. And it was interesting to watch light bulbs go off in people's head when they would recognize a voice. So, they'd be sitting there kind of almost in an awkward silence, and then they would hear a side conversation. They'd be like, oh, I know you, you're this person. And even to the point of like knowing people's real names. Like a lot of times you just know someone through their gamer tag. And so it's kind of a weird, different social interaction and engagement.
It took me a few months after my roommate actually moved in here before I started calling him by his real name, because I was so used to calling him by his in-game name.
That's one thing that we kind of struggle with in meetings and stuff like that. And it's funny because a lot of times in our stream, you'll hear someone be like, oh, Ricochet. All of a sudden, during the stream, they'll be like, oh, Jono did this. And they're like, John, Ricochet did this. And switching back and forth between the real world and the gamer environment is kind of a unique element to this. But so we've got this curriculum, so it's kind of all set up and designed to allow a student to really kind of pick up these skills that we found these skills to be required to not only coach, but to broadcast and to host these type of events. So we've kind of been able to take our own experience in doing this and go, what skills do we need? And more often than not, there's already an existing course on campus that highlights those skills. Ferris is extremely gifted in some of the production and event management curriculum already. And we really kind of gave up on trying to recreate those in a area that was specifically unique to esports. We're like, we don't need another event management course just for esports. We're going to partner with event management and go, would you please teach your content to our students? And for the vast majority of those conversations, the conversation has always been, sure, this sounds like a great fit. Why don't we do this? If anything, we've had more challenges with colleges that want more, that they're like, oh, you should really do one specific example. There should be a specific PR or marketing concentration. You're like, yes, 100%, you're right, there should be. But let's get the degree approved first, and then we can start talking about additional areas of concentrations or minors or associate's degrees with this. So it's almost like the conversation around this is too exciting. And we've had a problem where people are like, oh, I really want to do this with that. And you're like, yes, but first let's just get this degree. That might be a little bit of Sandy. That might be a little just bit of my begging to get the paperwork done quicker, but I'll try not to let that go.
Andrew,
Yeah,
are all
that's-
those classes on your list, are they all online available, do you know?
Vast majority are. And so we've kind of been a little bit lucky with COVID, if you can believe that, in
Yeah,
that
I understand.
some of them traditionally have been, I've been told that these will never be taught online, and they're being taught online.
Yeah.
And so it's not a matter of, if you could pick with your students, would you do this face-to-face? Sure. If I bring you a cohort of esports students who are used to working online, can you teach that curriculum to them? And I think we've been able to answer that as yes, just through the last year of survival. Of we've gotten these things online. And if there's a student population and an instructor who can both agree that this can be taught online, I'm very biased, but I would say yes.
It's nice with the specific esports student group. The students who want to go into esports are the students who are tech savvy enough to be consistently playing, doing most of their for fun activities online. And so it's going to be a lot easier for, a set of esports specific students to do something online as opposed to just a general student population.
Well, I'm looking at it from a marketing standpoint. If you're marketing to 100-mile radius of Ferris versus, hey, guess what? We can market to, not just the United States, but maybe in further out than that. I think
Right.
that would be a heck of a way to build a program real quick.
And that's kind of been our mentality from almost the start, is you go, if this has to be a, like you said, 100-mile radius, it'll be an okay degree. We will struggle to attract that student population. If we can open this up to the world, this will make a difference. This will bring students to us. This will bring our students to industry. It fits.
But see,
really
I think that's
well.
the critical part up front, I think, is before it even, I don't know, it hits I know it's already hit the curriculum, and I'm on the academic senate, and I know it's brought up. I look at it and say, if you can make sure that all those courses are going to be an online course as you build it, I think you're going to have a lot more success.
Yep.
Personal.
And that's we've built it that way, and with the mindset of any that absolutely refuse to offer an online, there will be an or option. This is being designed as a fully online program. There was a checkbox.
Yep.
And we made sure that's the mindset, because like I said, we've had great success with our students, with our student population, with our esports athletes, and their interest in this. But I can also recognize that that's a very limited population geographically. And there's no reason the skill sets that they're going to be broadcasting or that they're going to be highlighting, they have to be online. Like that's what this degree is. So
Right.
it fits
Yep.
with the
Yep.
student population. It fits with the curriculum. I'm just trying to recognize my bias and not forcing that, but also forcing it.
Well, another suggestion I would say is if there's items that are not able to be fully online, is there a method where you can have them come to campus for a short, maybe a 3-week class, during one of our regular breaks where they could use the dorms and, whatever, things like that.
I would
Is that
imagine
an
it would be more of an or. So like, let's
Okay.
say one of those courses absolutely said, nope, you have to be here in my classroom to learn this. There would probably be a creation of a new esports course that took that curriculum and said, we're going to do that, but online.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what this conversation is about too. Is it's going through, it's emerging. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of discussions like that as it gets to the next process, which I think goes to colleges. I think is the next step in the process.
I think we've already started some consults with college curriculum committees where any of
Okay.
these courses are lodged to make sure that there's buy-in across the board. And that's the nature of an interdisciplinary program like this. You've got a whole lot more players to line up before you can launch, which has delayed the process a little bit more than Andrew and I know all of you guys would have preferred. I hated to be in that position to say, whoa, wait a minute, we got to get that buy-in to make this thing work. But
that's also what's
Nice
going
to
to
know
make the
everything's
degree a
being done.
success.
Yeah, it's nice to know everything's being done the correct way. You want to make sure that when this happens, it happens in the correct way.
And I think having the arena come online too in 2 years, this kind of gives us a nice ramp up into that to get that skill set up and developed, and then be able to host and highlight as soon as that facility comes online.
yeah, that was the point I was going to make too, is you're going to have a position physically in space on the central campus in Big Rapids when the arena comes here. It could result in a program that's kind of a 2+2. Your first 2-year students are all over the place, but they come to campus for the last 2-year experience because of that arena. But we'll see. And that as that rolls out, you've got options. Having variable options is always a good thing right now. So fully online, yeah, but come to campus because look at this new cool thing we've got that you want to come to campus to participate with. We're at the 20 mark, and I know that there is a transition period. We're supposed to allow people 10 minutes to get to their next session, but I wanted to thank everybody for coming and participating and thank the guys for the conversation. And if you have last shots as we're fading out or moving to your next session, be sure
it looks like Luke had a question there.
There you
Yeah,
go.
too, maybe just a quick parting shot that can be turned into an offline discussion later on. So I know that you're, in the throes of the curriculum process, and you mentioned let's get this launched before we talk about other, collaborations and stuff. But I kind of have two thoughts. One is esports has a touch point with the physical world kind of in two main areas that I can see. One of them is the products that you use in playing the games. So in product design, I have seen more esports products inside my classes in the last 3 years. It's really quite phenomenal the way it's exploded. Things like furniture, controller organizers. So I actually have a capstone senior right now who's doing a product that's for cord management for wired controllers and stuff. I'm constantly seeing things like this is for holding up my headphones. This is for holding my controller for this particular kind of, game platform or whatever. So that is, I think, a really cool possibility in the future for one of those tracks maybe to hammer out in the future would be, hey, if you're interested in the physical product side of this, if you're interested in the high-end mouse pads that, have all the right attributes, or I actually have another senior right now who's making a special left-hand keyboard arrangement. This is a capstone project, right? It's for gaming, and it's got the right keyboard layout. It's got the right angle, so it's just ergonomic, and it's not going to cause carpal tunnel syndrome and all this other stuff. And he's going to the extent that like he's making printed circuit boards from scratch to get this to perform the way he wants it to. So that's the first one. The second one is there are elements of esports that touch the physical world in a totally different way. Things like drone racing. And I know that you and I have talked about this before. Andrew, I still think that would be a cool thing to discuss. Maybe that's part of the esports curriculum. If there's a drone racing league that shows up or whatever, then I think Ferris is poised for that too, because we've got a really great ability to pair up inside other classes, engineering students with esports students, with electrical engineering students to do things like developing new drone racing technologies and stuff like that. So maybe that's offline discussions for later.
I love every part of all of that. And if I have to test like some VR drone racing stuff, I would love that.
I know just personally, my friends and I are always looking for crazy stuff to do, and drone racing is easily something I could talk everyone into spending way too much money on.
So the next merit grant is going to be for beta tests of drones. You heard it here first. We're going to put headsets on and get dizzy.
Perfect. That sounds great.
All right, Sandy, I think that means we have to let people segment away.
Yes, we've got some people coming in for the next session. We need to let people have a potty break.
All right.
Excuse me, it's a comfort break. Thank you.
It's bio break.
Got it. Yes. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
High fives.